As an example, you might have been a successful salesperson used to closing your own client deals and earning large sales commissions. When promoted to lead a sales team, you may lose having your own sales wins and have to adjust to helping your sales team close their own deals. As a leader, you must sometimes sacrifice your own needs to put the needs of your team first in order to motivate and inspire them, which involves listening and responding to their needs. As a result, there will be times when their opinions, views and goals will overrule yours. One day, you may have to make the ultimate sacrifice, that of resigning and giving up your leadership role to take the ultimate responsibility and accountability for serious mistakes or poor performance by you or your team. Put it into action. Sacrifice to set the right example. If you're a leader who makes sacrifices, this can be very inspiring and motivating to your team. It can make it easier for them to do the same. By working over the occasional weekend, you can encourage them to do the same thing when needed. Putting your own needs aside in place of theirs may encourage them to do the same with other colleagues. These are examples of you leading by example, which is an essential skill for any successful leader. Are you comfortable with your sacrifices? Try to think through your choices before you make them. You don't want to regret sacrifices later. As an example, there's little point in working long hours to gain a promotion at the expense of ruining your marriage and never seeing your kids before they go to sleep. You'll have achieved short-term career success at the expense of later looking back in anger at how foolish you've been. Some things are not negotiable. Never sacrifice your ethics, integrity and character to simply help you achieve your leadership ambitions and goals. Examples might include not cheating by stealing ideas and claiming them as your own in order to further your career, or not pretending you have completed a task simply to earn a bonus. 25. Don't say yes if you mean no. We live in a world of falsehoods with people rarely saying what they really think. Stop replying no when you really mean yes, and yes when you really mean no. Instead, start being honest and stop hiding what you feel, think and want. We all are guilty, to a greater or lesser degree, of doing this, and sometimes for very good reasons, such as to not upset or hurt someone else, to enable someone else to win an argument, to leave ourselves in our comfort zone. As a leader, you must live to a higher standard than others do, given that you have a responsibility to those following you. No matter whether you lead a small team or an entire global organization, you lead others, and your words, actions and decisions can have a big impact on them. There are so many ways in which you and your team are impacted when you mix up saying yes and no. Agreeing and saying yes when saying no, requested to take on more work, even when there's no spare capacity within your team, asked to shorten a project. To a job promotion, because you're in your comfort zone and fear you won't succeed in the new role, even though you know it would be a great career move. Timeframe. Leaving yourself with an impossible deadline to meet, asked whether you agree with your boss's opinion on an important topic, even when you really don't agree. Told to accept some cuts to your department's budget and headcount, which you know are unreasonable and will make it impossible to meet next year's sales targets. To an opportunity for you and your team to present to your global board of directors, because you're uncomfortable making public presentations, even though the visibility would be fantastic for you and your team. To leading a project team, in spite of the great exposure and experience the role would give you. It's time to stop acting in this dishonest way and to come clean. Put it into action. Do the right thing. Starting today, when facing the dilemma of whether to say yes or no, take time to think and reflect in order to determine when a yes is the ideal answer and when no is the optimal response. Once you have reached a decision, have the courage to say yes to seizing the opportunities you want, in spite of having anxieties and fears of entering into the unknown, to leaving your comfort zone, in spite of the fear of taking on something new, even if it may shock or upset other people, by speaking up and overcoming any shyness, modesty and introversion. The strength to push back and say no, no longer accepting feedback, requests and advice which you don't agree with, through being assertive and clear in your communications, with a thick skin to help you face any criticism and peer pressure, accepting that you may upset your colleagues, particularly if you had always said yes in the past. These steps are not easy, and sometimes you just have to make a start and jump in. 26. Seek and embrace feedback. Positive, constructive feedback to a leader is like water and sunlight to a plant. The energy enabling the leader to grow, expand and flourish. Imagine that you never ever received feedback, opinions or observations of any kind about your behaviors, styles, habits and work performance. You might feel you're perfect because no one ever commented about or criticized you. However, this would be dangerous because without any feedback you'd never know how you can improve and grow as a leader and whether what you're doing is perfect or a total disaster. You'd be blind to how others perceive and experience you. This would be like driving a car with no side or rear view mirrors, and everything around you as you drive would be blind spots you can't see. Successful leaders always seek feedback to provide them with a clearer understanding of what other people think about and expect of them, their team and work. The insights gained help them improve how they lead themselves and others. You don't have to agree with everything you hear, but isn't it better to know what others are thinking and feeling, rather than being left in the dark? Thankfully, feedback is normally free and easy to obtain and you can seek it about any aspect of yourself and your work, such as how well you're leading, motivating, communicating, making decisions and collaborating. You can seek feedback from anyone who knows you and your work, although not everyone you ask may be willing to respond to your request and you must respect their wishes. Some people may be reluctant to share anything negative for fear of upsetting you, or they may feel they don't know you well enough or simply have nothing of value to share. Put it into action. Proactively seek regular feedback first of all. Find out whether your organization already has a feedback gathering process in place. The most common kind is an annual or biannual 360-degree online survey in which the responses are collected together and given to you as anonymous feedback. Such a formal process is a great start, but is nowhere near enough. It's better to also seek feedback on a more regular basis and in a more informal manner so you can gauge how you and your leadership work are seen. Ask those who report to you to give you monthly feedback in the form of answers to these questions, with their answers ideally being given to you verbally. What are your observations about me as your boss over the last month, and what did I do well and not so well during the next month? What would you recommend I focus on doing more of and/or doing better? This second question is known as feed-forward as opposed feedback, and it's where you ask people to give you advice for the future rather than about your past behavior. Always thank those who give you feedback by dropping them an email or telling them in person. You are not expected to act upon every suggestion you may be given, but do take on board any suggestions and advice which could help you become a better leader. 27. Deal with resistance to change. People rarely jump for joy at the sight of something changing in their lives. There's always something changing, something new or different occurring, and it's rare for anything to stay the same for very long. For a leader, dealing with all the changes around them can be incredibly hard. A typical leader might be feeling comfortable and good about the way things are flowing, and suddenly along comes a big scary change, causing them to feel confused, demotivated, upset, uncomfortable and even fearful, unwilling to accept the change, and instead choosing to resist and fight back. So opposed that they may even choose to resign. It's human to struggle in this way because it's hard to have to let go of the old to let in the new, to give up the familiar for something unknown. Such reactions to change are comparable to how you cope with the death of a loved one. In her famous work, Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross describes a predictable process of grieving, which is exactly the same process we go through when dealing with any challenging change. The stages of this process are being shocked and surprised, feeling anger, frustration and confusion, wanting to negotiate and bargain, finding acceptance. Successful leaders become used to taking themselves and their teams through this process of dealing with change. Put it into action. Work through the grieving process working alone or with your team. You need to work through the different stages in order to successfully confront, understand and accept any change. Allow time to get over any shock and surprise, but don't deny the need for the change or ignore the fact that a change is really going to happen. Understand why there may be a need to change and seek to understand the positive reasons and benefits of the change. Share these with your team to help them view the changes in a more positive light. Sometimes this may be difficult if you or your team feel the change may be unnecessary and even a bad thing, and no amount of positive spin would alter this thinking. Allow your team to express their feelings and help them to understand that any change takes effort, can seem daunting, and that it's common for someone to be anxious and even fearful when facing something new like this. Make time for people to discuss the change. It's natural for someone to want to know if the change has to happen now and as planned. Help and encourage your team to become comfortable, to accept rather than simply be resigned to living with the change. It obviously helps if you're also accepting and okay with the change and have already overcome any of your own concerns and reservations. So try to work on yourself first. Allow some people extra time. Some people really struggle with change. Spend extra time talking with them to understand why they're resisting or unhappy about the change, and try very hard to respond to their concerns. For example, if they hold back because they lack the necessary new skills or knowledge, make sure they know that you can arrange training. Worry they will struggle with new processes, offer to support them. Feel burned out and view the change as the final straw, give them some time off or extra care and attention. 28. Embrace failures. To never fail is the easiest way of ensuring you're never successful. Do you worry about making mistakes, about making the wrong decisions and choices? You would not be alone if you do. 9 out of 10 leaders admit that the top concern keeping them up at night is a fear of failure. This finding comes from a 2018 survey by Norwest Venture Partners, who interviewed 200 CEOs and founders of privately held, venture and growth equity-backed companies. In our very uncertain world, failure is inevitable. You can minimize the possibility of it by employing all forms of expertise and wisdom to help ensure that your actions and decisions are perfect, but you'll still have days when for any number of possible reasons you might fail. Actual sales revenues are far below your sales forecasts. The construction costs of a new factory are double the amount you budgeted. The newly hired member of your team performs badly and must be fired. Your negotiation strategy with a key supplier does not work. You lose out to a competitor when trying to win a new key client account. Your election strategy is weak and you come last in the vote. How do you react when you don't achieve what you planned or when you have made a poor decision? Chances are you'll be embarrassed, worried for your job, wishing to hide the failure and perhaps deflecting the blame by pointing your finger at the person next to you. These are common reactions, but even worse, I have found that leaders sometimes put their fingers in their ears and actively avoid talking about their failures and act as if they never happened. Successful leaders, however, know that acting like this is a recipe for disaster. To improve as a leader, you must embrace your struggles and failures and explore the lessons they can teach you so that you grow, move on, and never make the same mistakes again. Put it into action. Have a mindset of experimentation. Be a leader who has a tolerance for failure and encourages their team to constantly experiment and explore, who tries out new ideas, new people and new ways of working and so on. Motivate and inspire your team to never hold back for fear of failing. Instead, encourage them to be innovative while understanding that things rarely go to plan and that sometimes an unsuccessful outcome might open the door to new successes and discoveries. Learn from what's happened. Mistakes happen. It's your job as a leader to create a working culture where everybody understands this, and that you must all be open-minded and self-reflective enough to carry out a lessons learned exercise after each failure to maximize the return on the effort you've invested. When failure does strike, sit down with your colleagues to openly explore and answer these 2 questions. What can we learn from this? What happened and why? How can we grow stronger and wiser to make sure we are more successful moving forward? Don't treat these sessions as opportunities to apportion blame and to hurt each other. They should be brainstorming sessions with the explicit aim of helping everyone to grow and become more successful in the future. 29. Don't rely upon past victories. Earlier career successes don't assure you of success today. The top performing members of your team might be the worst candidates to lead the team for a number of reasons. Your worst mistake might be promoting them into a leadership position. For example, a top-performing salesperson who is 100% focused on their own sales successes might struggle to step back and manage an entire sales team. They may be unwilling to give up their focus on their own work and find it hard to focus on training, encouraging and supporting the team in achieving their own sales and career goals. A dedicated software engineer is so used to working alone. relying upon their introvert personality to help them quietly think through problems, that they may struggle to lead a department that requires them to be an inspirational communicator. A workaholic and details-focused accountant is promoted into a finance manager role, and in their new role rarely delegates tasks. When they do, they can't stop micromanaging their team members. The keenest and most dominant member of a marketing team is appointed its team leader. They are admired by senior colleagues, but their immediate colleagues refuse to work under them, claiming they are far too selfish, never listen, and are only concerned with their own success and visibility. It is common for someone to be promoted based on their past performance, and in their new and more senior role they may struggle to be successful, perhaps unable to cope with the high workload or complexity of the problems. Sometimes referred to as being promoted to their level of incompetence, this is a common reason for someone who had been very successful to then unexpectedly fail in their career and even be fired. It's something that successful leaders never allow to happen to members of their team and also to themselves. Put it into action. Differentiate between performance and potential. How do you separate a person's performance today and their potential to succeed in larger roles tomorrow? The same applies to you in terms of your own performance and potential. Most global companies recognize this, and they monitor and reward their staff based on two separate criteria: their actual work performance to date, their potential to grow in the organization and succeed in larger job roles. For this reason, a high-performing leader or employee might earn large bonuses for exceeding their annual goals or key performance indicators, KPIs, yet may still not be viewed as ready for a promotion into a larger and more senior position. Don't fail in your first leadership role. When you're fortunate enough to have been promoted into a leadership role, be humble enough to admit that the skills that got you this far may not be suitable or sufficient in your new role. To truly succeed in your new leadership position, you need some brand new skills, styles, and behaviors. If you're not sure what these are, ask your boss and those who may be in similar leadership roles to yours. Your new skills will probably include learning to no longer do everything yourself and instead start delegating and empowering your team, stepping back rather than being details-focused. Micromanaging too much and not trusting other people's work. Giving team members the credit rather than simply seeking it for yourself. No longer being a sole contributor or loner, and instead needing to communicate more with others. Moving from an I to a we mentality. Keeping your emotions in check, because now you have a team who will be influenced and impacted by your reactions. 30 Learn, unlearn, relearn. The best leaders are like school children, they spend their days learning. We live in a world where new knowledge and facts are appearing all the time. Until 1900, it was estimated that the amount of human knowledge was doubling every 100 years, and, since then, this time frame has been dramatically shrinking. Today, it's estimated that total human information and knowledge is doubling almost daily. At the same time, a lot of knowledge is quickly becoming outdated and superseded. Ideas that are valid today may have little relevance or value tomorrow. As a leader, you must deal with this exponential growth of newly available knowledge that typically has a shortening lifespan of relevance and usefulness. We see this phenomenon everywhere: a new manufacturing or supply chain process becoming obsolete within a year, data on a new market for your products becoming useless in a few months' time, adopting new, best practice, leadership styles and models being required on an almost annual basis, keeping up with never-ending new cybersecurity threats and other risk management challenges, juggling numerous upgrades to every system and process you manage, continually adapting to new rules and procedures. On everything from data privacy to corporate governance, constant pressure to restructure and reorganize in the face of new evidence that things can be done better. It's impossible to be a successful leader if you're not constantly learning, unlearning and relearning. Bad luck if you have no interest in reading articles or books, in attending conferences, or hearing about other people's ideas and experiences. You're doomed if you're uncomfortable in giving up your old opinions and understanding, to make space for new concepts and ideas. Leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. Very soon, CEOs may be known as CLO, Chief Learning Officers. And job interviews for management positions may focus on a candidate's willingness and ability to learn rather than on qualifications and achievements. Put it into action. Adjust your mindset. Are you comfortable in having your assumptions, beliefs and understanding challenged by new ideas and accepting that much of your existing knowledge and understanding will become redundant? If not, you need to be. Every month, carry out a knowledge audit by keeping a note of the new ideas and concepts that you came across in the past month that seem important to your work but that you may not yet fully understand, the relevant knowledge, processes, hard and soft skills that you need to start learning about, which of your old thinking patterns, ideas and knowledge are no longer relevant and have been superseded. Find a like-minded colleague or mentor to discuss all of this with and to hold you accountable for pursuing any new learning and training, and to encourage you to let go of any out-of-date thinking and ideas. Reading is key. There's always something that you can read or listen to which improves your knowledge and wisdom. It might relate to technical skills, leadership skills, to your organization or industry, or to the business environment. Use your time wisely and always carry these reading materials with you to read in any quiet moments, perhaps when on flights or in taxis. You could also listen to podcasts as you drive to work. 31. Proactively seek out challenges. You're not being a leader if you never step up to tackle issues and challenges. Leadership is an expedition. It involves taking teams, businesses and organizations forward into new and uncharted territory, where all kinds of challenges await. Such challenges may come from needing to embrace new opportunities, take full advantage of new ideas, technologies and markets, or from needing to cope with all kinds of problems, threats and risks. All these challenges must be faced head-on. Successful leaders will never avoid them no matter how complicated, unclear or downright dangerous they may appear at first glance. Sometimes they will be tackled with urgency and speed and at other times calmly only after careful planning. Great leaders often go one step further. Rather than waiting for the challenges to arrive, they proactively hunt them out. In addition to helping the organization, when a leader is willing to leave their comfort zone to pursue needed challenges, they also boost their own visibility and career opportunities. By putting up your hand and offering to take on challenges, such as leading difficult projects and tasks, you put yourself in the spotlight and senior colleagues may start viewing you as a go-to leader willing to take on difficult, risky tasks that others are not. Put it into action. Make challenge seeking a habit. Get your team together and regularly brainstorm to uncover and assess all possible challenges that you may not yet have fully recognized and tackled. These challenges may already exist or they may be ones that you foresee arising in the near future. Such challenges may take all kinds of forms, such as you notice it's becoming harder to hire engineers. Your plant is running out of an essential raw material. A key client seems to be having worsening cash flow problems. Key staff are retiring with no successors in place. Tensions are rising between departments within your company. A new competitor has just launched a lower-priced product that may take market share. Be aware that your eagerness to take on challenging tasks may have its downsides, such as needing to work longer hours and the risk of becoming stressed. Do be careful about going overboard on this one and seeking out problems to solve just for the sake of it and being viewed as someone who finds a challenge hiding behind every corner and lurking under every stone. Your team may become angry that you're creating more work for them unnecessarily. Make a plan of action to tackle each challenge. You need to decide how to respond to each challenge that you discover and observe. Involve the relevant team members and colleagues to help you analyze and understand each issue and to decide how you'll tackle and solve it. Decide whether the challenge needs to be responded to now, at a later date, or can even be ignored altogether. Create a plan of action. Agree how you'll obtain the necessary resources and approvals to implement your plan of action. 32. Expect the odd storm in your team. New team members can unsettle an existing team, like throwing a stone into a still pond. A team goes through a series of stages similar to those faced as we move from childhood, teenage years through to late adulthood. It's vitally important to help your team navigate the potentially disruptive early stages. Forming stage. This is the first stage when a team has just been created and everything is new, not fully understood nor aligned. Relationships are not developed. goals not aligned and tasks not agreed upon. An established team might fall back into this forming stage when there's a major change, such as a new boss being appointed, new members joining, or the goals and aims of the team being changed. Storming stage. You can compare this to a person's rebellious teenage years, and is when team members become more settled and comfortable and start to learn what they can get away with. This might involve speaking up, challenging, or cutting corners, and is a team's most difficult stage. If not managed well, this stage can result in conflicts, blame games, and disruptive behavior, leading to poor relationships and weak performance. Norming stage. This is the time when a team is overcoming its storming stage challenges and is beginning to operate as an aligned and healthy team in terms of goals, trust, and collaboration. Performing stage. This is the ideal stage of any team and is evidenced by high levels of motivation, interaction, accountability, responsibility, sharing. At this stage, any conflict tends to be healthy. Do these stages feel familiar from teams you have worked within or led to date? They form part of a team development model, first proposed by a U.S. professor of psychology, Bruce Tuckman, in the 1960s, which has stood the test of time and is a lens through which you can understand any team you're asked to lead. The model can help you focus on how you need to help your team to become a high-performing one as fast as possible. Put it into action. Manage a new team well. Pick new team members well in terms of personality, mindset, and attitude to ensure that they will fit into your existing team. Always choose someone who is a team player over a very individualistic person when deciding who to hire or invite into your team, to make sure that the new person will collaborate and share with others. Introduce new goals, aims, processes, and systems thoughtfully to minimize any misunderstandings, work overload, stress, and demotivation. Spend extra time in communicating with all members so that they fully understand everything, including buy-in of any changes you need to make. As a new leader of a team, don't become the reason why your team's engagement and productivity might fall. Take things slowly and observe and listen before acting. Appreciate that your team will have been used to the style of your predecessor, and need time to adjust to your leadership style and expectations. Overcome the storming stage. What rules of conduct do you need to ensure that your team works smoothly and positively together? Create these rules and maintain them. They might include ideas such as, if you need people to prepare well for management meetings, then say so and be consistent in demanding this. Likewise, if you need team members to quickly and positively help each other, make this a topic you regularly talk about and discuss. Spend time building up high levels of trust by encouraging open communication and addressing at an early stage any possible conflicts and misunderstandings. Invest in team-building activities and team social events to help speed up the bonding and trust-building process. Give each team member plenty of feedback in one-on-one sessions, and allow them to also give you feedback on your role as their boss. This open communication culture can allow people to share their concerns and worries before they become more serious issues. 33. Put yourself in others' shoes. You will only truly understand other people when you try to see the world through their eyes. Showing empathy brings out the best in people. The people you show empathy to will usually feel valued and understood by you and appreciate that you're making the effort to understand their concerns, issues, needs, and dreams. It's not only with your staff you can be empathic, but anyone you work with, including colleagues, clients, and suppliers. Having empathy for your clients allows you to fully understand the issues that they face and need your help in solving. Similarly, by understanding your suppliers, you're able to create a deeper and longer-lasting partnership of mutual understanding and aligned expectations. Empathy is an awareness of other people, of their emotions, feelings, moods, and needs. It forms part of emotional intelligence. Often referred to as EQ, your emotional intelligence comprises 4 key interlinking aspects: self-awareness, self-management, empathy, social interaction. Typically, if you have taken the time to know yourself well, to become self-aware, then you'll find it easier to be empathic. Being empathic is a choice and can be learned and practiced, and is essential to any leader's success. Without it, you'll struggle to inspire and motivate your team and will be seen as a cold and uncaring leader. Put it into action. Show empathy in challenging moments if you wish to be recognized as a truly inspiring leader. Make sure that you demonstrate empathy during difficult moments for your colleagues, organization or clients. Allow New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern to be your role model. In 2018, she showed immense empathy by spending time with grieving relatives of those killed in her country's mosque shootings. When a disaster or tragedy occurs, it can be so easy to focus on being jealous, angry or upset, but it takes great leadership to also show compassion, understanding and caring. At work, there are many examples of when your team will need your extra support and understanding. You lose a large client business and this deflates your sales team. Your team becomes burnt out through overwork. One of your team fails to complete a project on time and is very upset. A key employee is poached by a competitor and the rest of the team must work overtime to fill her vacant shoes. In such cases, you must understand and acknowledge how your team is feeling, giving them time to talk, grieve, cry, take time out or distress. Be tough with empathy. As a leader, you'll always need to have difficult conversations and to give people critical feedback. Make sure, however, that you do it with empathy. When you need to tell somebody off, do so in private and keep your emotions in check. Talk to them calmly, giving them time to reflect and respond. If you need to terminate somebody's employment, do it, but demonstrate your empathyByGIVINGTHEMASMUCHNOTICE, SUPPORTANDTERMINATIONPAYASPOSSIBLE. 34 Know when to shut up. So often, it's the words coming out of a leader's mouth that lead to their downfall. Are you the kind of leader who always finds something to say rather than stay silent? Too many leaders can seem desperate for others to hear their own voices, rarely keeping their own opinions and views to themselves. I am sure you'll have often noticed this habit. A person criticizing their colleague for being late for a meeting, the manager who keeps making inappropriate jokes, a leader always insisting on having the last word in any discussion, no matter how useful or inappropriate, a team member always making comments about other people's appearance and lifestyle choices. Acting in this way by always saying what comes into your head is a recipe for disaster and will cause you to fail as a leader. Over time, you'll alienate more and more of your colleagues by not listening nor respecting them while appearing to belittle, over-criticize and demotivate them. As you become more senior, your words carry more impact and weight, so can upset many more people. You can see this when observing global leaders, such as the US President or UK Prime Minister, whose messages can inspire or upset millions of people. Put it into action. Be fast to praise, slow to blame before you speak, pause. Will what you're about to say make someone feel good and uplift them, or will it have the opposite effect of bringing them down and making them feel bad? Go ahead and share your positive words, but think before being negative and critical and decide whether it's absolutely necessary to upset someone with your words. Sometimes, you have to. But maybe you're being critical simply because you want to prove a point, win an argument or put someone in their place. You may simply be acting out of habit and, by pausing, you can decide whether you need to change what you plan to say. Try sleeping on it and, the following day, decide whether you still need to say what you had planned. This same thinking applies to your jokes, off-the-cuff comments and stories. Some will leave a positive feel-good feeling and are okay to share, while others may be offensive, insensitive or discriminatory. Pause before pressing send. It's not just when speaking verbally that you should pause. You might be guilty of the same mistake in your emails. Emails are notoriously easy to send without much thought. The next time you're about to press the send button, pause and check the tone, meaning and intention of your message. Once someone else has heard or read your words, it's too late. You can desperately apologize, but the damage is done. Try drafting your email and saving it as a draft. Come back to it later and only press send if you're absolutely sure your choice of wording is appropriate. 35 Play to your strengths. Focus on what's working rather than trying to repair what isn't. It's human to often look on the negative side in any situation before focusing on the positive. With people, we tend to always notice a person's weaknesses rather than their strengths. We do the same thing to ourselves. fretting about our faults rather than acknowledging and celebrating our positive qualities and strengths. This spills over into the world of leadership development, where we tend to focus on leaders' gaps and weaknesses. By doing so, we are trying to create great all-around leaders, but this is a mistake. Using a sports analogy, how many sports people have been pushed to become all-rounders who excel across many sports? Very few, with the vast majority focusing on their areas of strength. David Beckham on his control of a football, Serena Williams on dominating a tennis court, and Tiger Woods on his ability to precisely hit a golf ball. Imagine how much effort would have been wasted if David, Serena or Tiger had been pushed to excel in multiple sports by developing skills in which they showed no promise. The same logic applies to leaders. Focusing on and using your strengths will help you to thrive and excel. This strength-based approach to leadership development recognizes that leaders have particular strengths which they were either born with or have developed over the years. Such skills come more naturally to them and take less effort to develop. They prefer talking about and working on these strengths rather than having to focus on fixing their weaker or non-existent skills. It can be demotivating and even stressful for a leader when they're being judged against their weaker areas. Like a right-handed person being assessed on their ability to write with their left hand. When an organization focuses on helping its leaders develop and use their strengths, the leaders can more easily excel both individually and collectively. Put it into action. Know your strengths. You probably know where you're talented and strong. If you're unsure, take an online personality assessment which has a strengths-based focus, such as the VIA Character Strengths Assessment or Gallup Strengths Finder. Work with your strengths. Always make the time and seek opportunities to deepen and broaden your strengths, ensuring that your skills remain up to date and relevant. Continually align your career plans so that any leadership job roles you take on are best suited to your skill set. This may be a process of trial and error. You may never find a perfect alignment, but avoid job roles in which you can only be successful by excelling in areas in which you're weak and/or have no talent or interest. Otherwise, you may be setting yourself up for failure. And acknowledge your weaker areas. Decide which weaknesses, if any, are having a material and detrimental impact on your performance as a leader. Commit to develop these weaker areas or try to change your workload to avoid needing to use those particular skills. For example, by delegating certain tasks to other people. Some leaders choose to change professions or industries to better align their strengths and weaker areas with the requirements of their job role. Apply the same thinking to your own team. Help your team grow their own careers by building on and using those skills which are their strengths. Don't make them feel bad by focusing on their areas of weakness. Only have them focus on those weaker areas that are essential for their work and career success. 36. Trust your intuition. Don't ever ignore your feelings about a situation, decision, or person. Your gut feelings are a powerful tool to help you successfully lead. Variously referred to as intuition, instinct, vibes, having a feeling or sixth sense. These feelings are your antennae. They give you a sense of what is happening, what the right decision to take is, or what a person is really like. I am sure you must have had many intuitive moments, such as something does not feel quite right in a business negotiation in spite of everything appearing to be going well. You're interviewing a candidate with a perfect-looking CV and who answers your questions well. But you have a sense his personality is not ideal for your role. One of your team members seems very distracted but, when asked, insists everything at work and home is all fine. But you sense otherwise. You have a feeling that your team members have an issue with each other as they rarely seem to socialize as one team anymore. Driving to work, you have a flash of inspiration about how to solve a difficult client problem. Leadership is not easy, so, if you have an extra tool to help you, use it. After all, people around you can be hard to read, not always revealing their true intent and feelings, and the business decisions you face are increasingly more complex and challenging. Using your intuition can give you an edge as you try to understand people and make the right decisions. Put it into action. Listen to your inner voice the next time you're unsure about something or need to make a choice or decision. Give yourself a few seconds to pause and reflect. How do you feel about the person standing in front of you? Does that decision need to be made right now? How does this situation feel in this moment? Your head is probably guiding you to arrive at an apparently sensible-looking outcome, which might be that the candidate who impressed the most is to be hired, the lowest-cost supplier will be chosen, the most profitable client opportunity will be pursued, or the very helpful new colleague is clearly trustworthy. But, before signing off on the decision, ask yourself if your heart agrees with your head and sense how your body feels about the decision. Perhaps you have an uneasy feeling in the pit of your stomach suggesting that something may be amiss, a sense that something is not as it seems. Close your eyes and ask yourself how you really feel, observing what comes to you. It would be okay to decide that you may need more time. It's easier to sense your inner feelings when you can be free of the noise both around you and inside your head. Try sitting in a quiet place to reflect upon important decisions and to quieten your mind in its hundreds of thoughts and opinions. It may help you to take up meditation and yoga while also spending time in nature, walking in forests or along a beach.